I feel like there's so many emotions that go into all of it, like anger, sadness, like regret, just like of all schools for me to end up at, why this one?
Brooke Slusser. Brooke Slusser is the co-captain.
At this rate, there might just not be women's sports if they keep allowing this to happen. There would have been no way that I would have came here if I had known that.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So Brooke Slusser has been speaking out. She is the female athlete who had a transgender male volleyball player on her team. She played for San Jose State University. They had a male on the roster, and that led to up to 6 forfeits against SJSU for the Mountain West Conference. This team got pretty far in the tournament, but while all that was going on, women were coming forward and saying that they refuse to compete against this team. They don't want to compete against a team with a male player. Brooke was the only woman on her own team who came forward and condemned the fact that the school allowed a male to compete on the team. She shared accommodation with this person, with this male individual. She shared hotel rooms with this person while they were on the road. And for the longest time, Brooke was unaware that this person was actually male.
I mean, just the fact that I'm openly changing in front of this person, thinking that it's a woman, and I could have had the chance to take myself out of that situation and at least go to a different room or request to be switched to another room, and didn't. So I got that opportunity of my choice to be taken away from me.
As you can imagine, that was quite the violation. Finding out that the person that you've been sharing accommodation with, the person you've been sharing hotel rooms with, was actually a man. A man who identifies as a woman competing on a women's volleyball team. And that's not to say that she never noticed that this person stood out in terms of athletic performance when it came to how high this person could jump, when it came to how fast and how hard this person could spike the ball. She had her suspicions that something wasn't quite right. And then it was soon confirmed when the boycotts began. There were teams that boycotted more than once. They were put in a position where they were forced to compete against a male player, and they made it very clear that they did not consent. So they had to choose between playing in the sport that they love or forfeiting and walking away, refusing. And to their credit, these young women absolutely refused to compete. Brooke had the courage to speak out against her own team for allowing this in the first place. And it was obvious that there were other girls on the team who felt the same way. The coach, the assistant head coach, also came forward. And boy, did she face the consequences for that. She ended up losing her job. A bullet went through her kitchen window because she dared to speak out and say, this is wrong. She revealed that this male player was given special treatment, wasn't treated the same way as the female players, because we don't want to offend the man who identifies as trans. We want to make sure that we keep this person happy, because this person's mental health comes before everybody else's, apparently. So Brooke is shedding more light on exactly what she has gone through as a result of all of this. She has spoken out about having to flee campus because of the bullying that she faced on campus as a result of speaking out, of daring to say that it's wrong for men to compete in women's sports, for daring to say that there are safety concerns, especially after what happened to Peyton McNabb. These sporting bodies, these schools don't care about the inclusion of the women, which is the exact reason why the female category was created in the first place. It wasn't for the inclusion of men who identify as women. It was for the inclusion of females, because female bodies are different to males. Males have an advantage when it comes to athletic performance. So if there wasn't a female category, these women simply wouldn't be playing sports, or they wouldn't get anywhere near as far in sports as they deserve to, based on their abilities when they compete against other females. So it doesn't make any sense to make females compete against men. But that's what's happening when a male athlete can identify himself onto the women's team. And it has real impact. It has an impact on their careers. It has an impact on their potential that they are able to achieve. It has an impact financially on the scholarships that they are offered. Because we know that these male athletes receive scholarships that rightfully belong to females. It's alleged that this male player who competed on the roster for SJSU, also received a scholarship that should have gone to a woman. A lot of the girls had concerns when it came to training with this male individual.
The height that the person can jump is so much higher, and honestly higher for a man. It's insane. And then the strength behind the ball when they're swinging is also just so much more powerful. There's many times for multiple people all the time that we're having to try and dodge the balls that are coming straight at our face. And I've been hit multiple times by the balls, and I've had bruising on my legs just from trying to dodge it, and it catches my thigh, and I've had a bruise on my thigh for weeks. No woman's ever gonna have that strength and power that they have. And two, they're taking opportunities and scholarships and medals away from women that have worked their entire lives for.
She wasn't the only one who had concerns when it came to training with this person. She also had concerns off the court as well, because her safety was threatened multiple times. Not to mention the plot. It was alleged that this male player colluded with a female player on another team to spike the ball towards Brooke, and the male player, due to grievances, wasn't going to block, wasn't going to protect his own teammate.
Based on what I was told, exactly what one of my teammates had seen go on that night about talking about the scouting reports and leaving the net open was told to those lawyers. So that should have been sufficient evidence. And yet nothing happened. I mean, when you're going through this, these lawyers, I would pretty big chance know nothing to none about volleyball. And so I think if you were to do a good investigation on this issue, you bring in someone from an outside source that's unbiased, that can come in, evaluate film, and understand what's truly going on, and actually dig deep into what happened that night to really get sufficient evidence of this did happen. People are telling you this happened, and it's not secondhand information. She sat there and heard that conversation between Blaire and Malaya. There is sufficient evidence, and they were told sufficient evidence.
She finds this out, like this was going on the whole time, because she dared to say that this is wrong. And this is why women don't speak out. This is why women don't come forward. They are put under intimidation, under fear. And when they do speak out, they receive death threats, not just against them, but against their family members, against people they care about. Their safety is threatened every day because they dared to say something. So let's hear from Brooke. I'm going to react to a recent video she did where she explains the direct impact it has had on her.
Going through everything I did with everything at San Jose, I ended up developing an eating disorder, and I became very anorexic. For me, just looking back on everything and really thinking about it, I just think from the stress and how anxious I was every single day, I just wasn't eating really at all. I mean, I was maybe eating like 400 calories a day at most. And I ended up losing, like, I want to say I went from around 160 to 128 in that one semester. And so it definitely obviously isn't healthy for someone of my size to be that weight. And I ended up losing my menstrual cycle for 9 months. And so it was definitely severe. And even when I came home, like, some of my family and friends were very worried about me. And so it was something that I had to heal from as well. Yeah. Some of my friends even were like, you just looked tired all the time. Like, you just looked dead. You didn't look like yourself. You didn't look healthy. I mean, I looked like a twig. I was a twig. So yeah, a lot of people, especially, they didn't tell me at the time, but like looking back, like I even had a friend, I was able to come home for like 3 days that fall semester of my senior year. And I had a friend later on tell me that when I saw her, she literally went home and cried to her mom because she was so worried about me, just because she could tell like I looked so unhealthily skinny. I vividly remember there was a time where after I'd moved home, I had a dream that I was back there, and I woke up like sobbing in the middle of the night, just thinking that I was back in San Jose. And I vividly remember it was like me just going to practice and getting called into a meeting with my coach. And I just woke up in the middle of it just sobbing.
Wow. That is a lot. And we never know what somebody is going through. When, behind closed doors, we never know for sure. And Brooke has done different interviews, throughout this whole situation while this was going on, but this is definitely the most revealing. But you can imagine just having your safety threatened. She had to finish college back home in Texas remotely because of the harassment she was facing. And people can say, well, trans athletes, they face bullying, they face harassment. We've even had people push this narrative that they're in danger of taking their lives if we don't allow them to compete against girls.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports,
right.
that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
But to say that we have to allow men to compete in sports against women because they could take their lives is just so manipulative and, just psychologically abusive to put that on young girls.
Last February, when I was 15 years old, there was an 18-year-old man in my locker room.
I have also been told that by speaking up, I would be responsible if that transgender athlete decided to take their life. Do you know what it's like to carry that weight at 16 years old?
That they have to go along with it, or they are endangering the lives of others. Complete false equivalency, but that's what the adults in the room push. That's the lie that they push. These schools and sporting bodies never think about the impact it has on girls when they're forced to undress in front of boys, or when they see male genitalia in their locker rooms, when they're in the shower and a boy walks in. How does that impact the mental health of the young women, some of whom may have actually gone through SA themselves in the past? They don't think about how triggering it is for these women to be in the locker room with men, with male athletes who claim to identify as women. They don't think about how triggering that is for them, how much fear that puts them in, what trauma that could bring up to be in a situation that you didn't consent to. That is violating, that is traumatic in and of itself. The stress that is put on these female athletes is unforgivable. EDs of the kind that Brooke is describing are actually life-threatening. They can have an impact on someone's health long-term, and there are women who have lost their lives from such conditions. And who's going to be held accountable for putting stress on these young women to such an extent that some of them might not be able to eat, might not be able to sleep, might not be able to leave their houses because of fear, because of the pressure put upon them, because of threats, because the school administrators told them that they might not be able to get a job in the future because they will be labelled transphobic, they will be labelled bigots, they will even be labelled racists. All of these labels that would be put upon them, they're told that that's what they're going to be labelled because they object to having a boy on their team or having to compete against a team with a boy or having a boy in their locker room. And Brooke is one of the few who have spoken out. What about the ones who haven't spoken out, who are suffering in silence? Brooke has said several times, had she known that she would be put in this position, she would never have gone to SJSU, that school that allows this, that state that allows this, is still allowing it. Injustices against girls and women, actively allowing it to continue. She would never have gone to California and gone to SJSU to compete under those conditions. But did they tell her? Did they give her the option? No. These schools, SJSU, schools like SJSU, these sporting bodies, Mountain West Conference, who continue to justify allowing this to continue, they need to be held accountable as a matter of urgency. It's about time people started thinking about the women and the girls in this situation and acknowledging that they are the ones who are vulnerable. They are the ones who are having accolades stolen from them, opportunities stolen from them. They are the ones who are being harassed and bullied. Harassment and bullying against these girls is called social justice, and them objecting is called bigotry. See how everything's been flipped to work against these girls? What are they supposed to do? All they can do is speak out, and I'm glad they're seeking legal action. I'm glad that SJSU is still under investigation. We need to see accountability, and we need to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. The NCAA wants you to think they fixed everything, but they're still deploying armies of high-priced lawyers to fight Brooke Slusser, Riley Gaines, and many other women in court who are simply demanding accountability for unimaginable harm suffered when men compete in their sports. This is what most people don't see when it comes to men in women's sports, the emotional distress that leads to physical harm. A male athlete was put on the SJSU women's team. The school lied to the women and never disclosed that he was male. Brooke spoke up after realizing she had been living with a man and sharing hotel rooms on team trips. For that, the media, news outlets, and her coach vilified her. She became the enemy. The male athlete allegedly conspired to physically harm her for speaking out. The stress and anxiety cost her £30. She dropped to £128 at 5'11". She lost her menstrual cycle for 9 months. She slept 2 to 4 hours a night. She eventually had to drop out of school and move back home for her safety and health. This is abuse. So why aren't women like Brooke ever considered when we talk about the feelings of those affected by these decisions? So I commend Brooke for speaking out and sharing more about what she has been through. It's only going to take people becoming more aware, not being able to hide behind their rhetoric, not being able to be in denial about the situation and what they've allowed, what they've encouraged. Those who have gone along with this and have condemned women for speaking out, those same people have a hand to play in this. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.